Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Big Analytics Query. Today, we are discussing all things AI and joined by AI experts, James Smith and Dan Cornwell. It's great to have you here.
Lovely to be here. Lovely to be here.
So, start with, I guess, a very simple question. Why is AI important? That's a nice, easy one to kick off.
Yeah, sure. So I think AI is particularly important in 2026 because it's gone from being quite a primitive technology to being one that a whole different sort of range of businesses use nowadays. It's certainly something that makes our jobs easier as the data consultants. So where we might be on projects where we have technical expertise, but we don't necessarily have explicit domain knowledge, is something that can be used as a knowledge accelerator to get us up to speed on a project. Yeah.
Nice. So it can just be used to help enhance and just quicken up processes that would take a lot longer before.
Exactly. Yeah. It can be used as a sort of an assistant, essentially. Yeah.
So what are the particular business applications that just help use AI to the best of its abilities?
So traditionally, AI or machine learning generally covers issues that fall under three kind of umbrellas. The first one being categorization. So this is essentially creating a border that we're going to make a decision across. So that might be, for example, whether you prescribe medication or you don't. It might be, has it crossed a boundary into this patient has disease X, or do they not? Or it might be, should you invest or not invest, essentially. The second one is more into regression, called regression, sorry. That's when we're kind of making evaluations across a continuous numeric value. So that can be things like predicting house prices. It can be estimating, given some factors, what can we expect the price of oil to be. And the third one is clustering. So clustering is generally when we are looking at data and trying to understand or cluster data points together and reveal relationships that we didn't currently know. A really good example of this is customer segmentation, when you might currently have some ideas of what customers might buy different products or might come to you as a business in general, which might be totally disproven or point you into different types of marketing campaigns based off of those new clusters that a model might come back with. What's interesting in today's world is we now have models that have complex architectures and can handle all three issues. For example, some of these new GPT-5 models, you can use those to do things like OCR tasks, where we're going to be extracting data from, say, maybe a PDF, summarizing the data, scoring the data, and storing the data inside of a database or lakehouse, whatever you like. So that's really where we've come from being able to handle one per model. Now one model can handle all three of them very efficiently and very scalably as well.
And you mentioned today we're constantly going through so many new advancements. What are those kind of new technologies that help and make it so much more powerful now than it's ever been before?
Yeah, I mean, so I'll talk a little bit about generative AI. So again, generative AI has come a long way in the last couple of years, and we're beginning to see Gen AI built into data analytics platforms. So things like Copilot and Azure Foundry. They're all good for businesses, and certainly we use them a lot as data scientists. So I'll talk a little bit about Azure Foundry. So Foundry has lots of different large language models that a user could choose from depending on what kind of business need they have. It also has this knowledge share, which allows the user to upload sort of documents that the models can scan and provide text feedback from those documents, and the user can use those for essentially extra context to give the large language model. one thing that we've seen a big improvement in the last couple of years is how these large language models deal with AI hallucination. So hallucination is when these large language models, they give you a response that is inaccurate, or they are hallucinating essentially. They maybe don't have enough context and they then give you an answer that may be inaccurate. And one of the things that the newer version of these large language models, such as GPT-5 and Cloud 4.6, they use they ask the user extra questions to sort of provide like extra context, and it means that they can really sort of drill down on what the user is actually asking for, and it really helps improve the accuracy of those answers.
So I guess it's sort of catching itself to making sure it doesn't go down a wrong rabbit hole.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's reducing that risk. Yeah.
And are there anything that users can do to help like accelerate and use those AI tools in the best possible way?
Yeah, I suppose one of the things that can help the user is this term called prompt engineering, and it means that when you're asking a large language model a question, say you're trying to get it to output you a document or look at an image or something like that, you could edit your prompt to tell the large language model exactly what you want it to respond to you to give you the most sort of precise answer for your business case. Yeah.
And AI has obviously moved from just kind of that ChatGPT, type it into a web, to being integrated into so many platforms now. How does that help end users?
Absolutely. So I think what you're touching on there is agentic AI. So as you say, we're now moving away from the traditional kind of prompting where it's just a user asking and then receiving a question back, to the model being able to essentially make a decision on its own and then implement and plan, which really is advancing how in the future we can expect it to interact with large language models and AI. Platforms like Databricks and Fabric, for example, are really making it a lot quicker to being able to push and productionize our own models, train models, and even log and monitor our own models to make them as accountable as possible as well.
I guess AI is everywhere at the moment. Everyone's using it in their own different ways. From a business perspective, how can you get the best out of it and make sure it's safely used as a business, but also like productively used as a business? What, maybe if you're not using it from a business focused, how would you help a business implement AI?
So starting off, I think what's very good for businesses if they're planning to, move into a more kind of data-driven AI kind of strategy is to really try and build a culture of data. So the people who everybody is responsible for the data that is going to be driving your business, driving those insights that you're going to then use to produce real actions and real revenue from that. Understanding the data that you're using to make your decisions. Rubbish in is generally rubbish out. I'm sure you've heard that 1,000 times.
Heard it in a slightly different term, but no.
Yeah. So we need to make sure that we're fully monitoring and considering what our data is going into, and also where that data is coming from, which pulls integration into the mix. It's all things data. It's not just worrying about what the model's doing. It's the full process, understanding, getting that data culture, so then people can use tools like CRMs, warehouse systems, anything like that we can then query from, interrogate or transform data into a database that a model can then reliably use to either query, learn from, train on, and produce those insights in the end.
And I guess it goes back to that hallucinations point. If you've got data that's just all over the place and everywhere, the models and AI aren't necessarily going to know which way to go. By having a clear, concise, it will just help give it the more correct answers, I guess.
Yeah, that's right.
And you're both data scientists. I guess the rapid introduction of AI has definitely changed what that looks like? How has it changed the role of a data scientist?
Yeah, so it's changed massively in the last couple of years. I think the biggest change for us is that we're moving more towards using sort of pre-trained foundational models rather than sort of building everything up from scratch. And it sort of has like a twofold benefit, such that clients generally see results much faster. But also for us data scientists, it means that we can spend more time doing the more interesting stuff. You know, we don't have to build these models up from scratch every time. We can spend more time making inferences about results. We can spend more time looking into the models, different parameters that go into those models. So from a bit of a selfish point of view, it's quite an improvement. And I think what's important to note is that AI is something that is definitely best used in conjunction with data scientists, because it sort of lacks that sort of contextual awareness sometimes, where, you know, us data scientists can make inferences about those results. Yeah.
And I guess by having the AI kind of a bit more already built up, you then get to specialize it in those nuanced cases.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And it goes back to what we were talking about with the with Azure Foundry, how they have these baked in models that you can then fine tune depending on your business case. Yeah.
And do you have any final top tips for introduction of AI within businesses, or how best to implement it?
I would say toolage is always good. And then getting educated on those tools is also kind of handy, so you know how to use them.
What do you mean by toolage? Sorry.
Toolage, I'm generally talking about the softwares that you're going to be building your full kind of AI or model workflow on. So your Databricks, Fabrics, I think we've mentioned those already, but generally that's kind of it. I think there's sometimes a bit of jargon that goes on too in the data science world. I don't really know how to get around that. You can always ask ChatGPT what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah. I think to go back to James's earlier point with, you know, rubbish in equals rubbish out, having a solid foundational like data set to work from is important. And if you don't have that, knowing that could be your limitation going forwards. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, James and Dan, for joining us, and thank you for watching. Don't forget to like our channel and subscribe, and then you can watch all of our big analytics queries to answer hopefully any question about analytics. Thanks very much for watching. Bye.